You're listening to Kane, Randy, and Brooke on Scratch the Vinyl.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Scratch the Vinyl. You made it back for another week, and we are glad that you did. We're still building up steam. We're like a steam engine. We're just pumping along, and we are just kicking butt. I feel like we've got Richard in the house again. I'm so pumped to have Richard as a co-host here. Randy's out. I think he took over Brooke's role. I think he's playing the Hulk in an upcoming Avengers movie. So Randy's not on this one, but we do have the big red machine, Brooke Johnson, up in here. And we have our guest, another great guest, everybody. We have Lee Bowes. Lee, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
And to be honest with you, we were talking about this before we got on here on the air, but you are a low-key celebrity. You are I know you're a humble guy and you're going to let us, you're going to kind of be bashful, but you're in a lot of things, man. Like I've done some things in my, what you want to call a musical tenure or career, but I've done nothing close to what you or Richard has done. So I feel like I'm in the presence of greatness today. Stop.
Yeah.
So let's just dive into it right now, Lee. I know that you're in Lee Bowes and the Jupiter Rings. I know that you're in Ghetto Blaster. I know that you're also in a major Tom Petty cover band called Learning to Fly, correct?
Yeah, it's kind of an offshoot of Voda, and Voda is really the core of that is an original band with Brian and John. But then we also do this cover stuff. So yeah, that kind of has taken its own leg there with the Learning to Fly deal with Tom Petty stuff.
Oh. That show at the Bourbon, and that band features Steve Ferroni of the Heartbreakers, correct?
Right. So it's a real deal tribute. And it's he's quiet at first. The first show we played with him twice now in Lincoln and once in Florida, and then I think it's twice in Lincoln and once in Florida, and then we're going out to LA next month to do another one. But he tends to show up quiet and gets a little more vocal as it goes on. It's unique playing with him because he obviously knows these songs. He played them for 25 years with the real band, and so we show up a bunch of hicks from Nebraska, and kind of fumbling through some of the stuff. But we've done well enough, I guess, that he keeps playing with us. And of course, he wants to keep Tom Petty's memory alive and the music alive, and we all subscribe to that. So it's fun, but he definitely sharpens us up on that stuff every time we get with him.
So, Lee, all right. I have a little surprise.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Speaking of like the, Voda, so it was Casting Pearls, and that's about the same time as Common Ground.
Right.
And we're in. Yeah. So I've been waiting.
Oh, look at that.
Woo!
Look at that. That is a collector's item.
Could you please sign it? I've been waiting on this.
You got it.
This is right in here. Lee Bowes, vocalist.
Yeah.
Is that a compact disc?
That is.
It is. For all you kids out there, it is a CD, compact disc, Common Ground.
Yeah.
I could probably burn it if anyone wants one.
You could. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify and all that good stuff. You got to look a little bit. There's a bunch of bands called Common Ground, so you have to dig a bit. But
this is the OG.
That is the OG.
The original. OG. All right, I'll be meeting with you later then for an autograph. Thank you.
And so how does it feel when you're playing with the drummer from the Heartbreakers when you screw up a song? I mean, it happens to every musician. Like, do you just want to go hide or throw yourself off the stage?
Yeah. You don't look back. You just look at the people and keep smiling like nothing happened.
Keep trucking.
He hasn't thrown any sticks or anything at us yet, but that day may come. You never know.
Let's move on to some of your earlier time. I kind of want to dig into it. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to listen to a lot of the show, but we like to peel back the old onion, so to speak, and we like to get to know our guests. And so I want to start personally by asking you about your early times in music. Like, how did you get into playing guitar and everything? Was it one of those deals where your parents made you do it? Did you start out in school band? How'd that work out for you?
Yeah, I was always pretty active in our music classes in grade school, and got a ukulele in fourth grade, and so I messed around with that quite. I still have it, by the way. And then in seventh grade, I started messing around with my dad. He had it's a '64 Gibson Melody Maker, which he still has, and I was messing around with that a little bit. And then for eighth grade graduation, actually, that guitar, that guy there, I got a funny story about that guitar too. But anyway, I got that in eighth grade, and then we started doing the garage band thing and playing Poison and Van Halen and Motley Crue and all that kind of stuff. And then at the same time, my buddy, some of the guys that I was in that doing the garage band thing with, we started an a cappella group. And so that taught me a lot about vocal harmonies and vocal power, those kinds of things, and really helped a lot in the things that I'm doing today as far as understanding harmonies and melodies and writing songs and those kinds of things. And then, so we toured a bit with that group in high school. And then in college, I got into the Common Ground that we saw here. And that was pretty heavily influenced by Dave Matthews. That was like an acoustic rock kind of a thing. And we toured a bit with that group. And then we played a lot of shows with Casting Pearls was one of the bands that we played a lot with here, which Brian was in case Miranda was also in. And so I played with those guys for a little bit, and then got the Jones in to get my original stuff going. So Willis was born, which Zach, who you've had on here, played drums in that band. We did Willis for a while, and then that when Flannel Channel started getting busier and busier, I jumped into that for a while, and Willis kind of took the back seat. And then Flannel Channel for me had kind of run its course, and so got back into doing the original stuff. But we couldn't find a drummer, so then found a drummer who is Cole's drummer from AM/FM, John Leffler. And so he started playing with us, and then we decided then to rebrand the band as Lebos and the Jupiter Rings, because I was doing a lot of solo acoustic stuff, which I still do a bit of now. And so then, we're kind of cruising, and then Ghetto Blaster came along, and that was one of those deals. We were out karaokeing one night, and me and Stan and Joe and Nick Brushers we tended to do all the rap and hip hop stuff at the karaoke mic instead of, Summer Lovin' and all the other stuff that everybody else was doing. And thought, man, let's start a band. And so many years passed, and Ghetto Blaster was born out of that. And that's been a really fun and successful project. And then Ryan called me up a couple years ago and said, hey, we're going to start doing Sabota cover shows. Do you want to come do that? So that's Brian from Casting Pearls, which they had then rebranded as Voda. And so doing some cover stuff with them. So yeah, just staying busy. And I try to disappear to this room every once in a while and write some new music. And we got some of that coming. We've got a few singles out right now, and got some shows coming up. So yeah, just staying busy.
Where are your shows at? Where are you?
This Friday, Ghetto Blasters in Omaha at Bogey's West, which I've never been to. Next Friday, I'm with the Jupiter Rings up at Harney Street Tavern, and Fall Break is on the bill with us there. They're going to kick the night off, and it's a fun little venue there in downtown Omaha. And then next stop, I think, is April. Well, go to LA with Voda early April to go play with Steve Ferroni out there. And then we're back here at the Zoo Bar April 12th. So come out April 12th. We'd love to see you there. And then Lonely Winters is opening that show. And the lead singer in that band was in Casting Pearls as well. So we're all inbred and interwoven here. We just can't get away from each other.
You, my go-to fill-in guitar player when I've needed it over the years.
Yeah.
And I just have a blast jamming with you. And I'll tell a funny little story. The Jupiter Rings were looking for a drummer. This is years ago. And Lee and I have been friends a while here, so I can tell this story. I'm like, well, heck, I'll give it a shot. And I mean, I can play the drums, right? And I can sing.
Right.
And I was so nervous at that tryout. I just left, didn't I, Lee? It was like I forgot how to play the drums that day. I was so nervous. Like, I'd listen to the material, and now I believe things work out for a reason, because John Leffler joined your band, and that is the perfect fit, because that little trio is tight. If you've never seen them, get out and see Lebo's and the Jupiter Rings, because it's such a great show, and the musicianship and the vocals, it's just super tight. And we got to support original local music in this town, and that's kind of the groundswell of this program, I believe, as well. So
yeah, well, thank you, Rich.
Of course, man. Yeah, but that day, every time I see you, it's the first thing I think about. But now I'll come over in your basement and we just rock out.
Yep.
It like nothing ever happened that day, but for whatever reason, when it counted, forget it. It was a horrible day for me, but man, I love your band and I'll support it till the end. So
right, and then maybe Jupiter Rings never would have happened. I mean, Jan Brady's never would have happened. So
totally agree.
All for reasons.
Everything happened.
It really does happen for a reason. Stan Liberty from Pasty Jenny.
I know,
right?
Stan, yeah.
Stan and I were, right before Pasty Jenny started, we were going to start a band, and he came over. This is right after my first divorce, and he came over to my parents, and all I had was like a keyboard and a guitar. And I'm selling this guy on being in a band with him. We were going to start a band called, I think, Liquid Courage or something. Well, then yeah. And then Stan sobered up and realized, and maybe not this guy. And he ended up in Pasty Jenny. And the rest is history from there. I mean, they're killing it out there. They're doing a heck of a job.
They've been around a long time.
They have.
Yeah. How long have they been around? What year that would have been?
Oh, that would have been like 15 or 16 years ago. So, so you've been out and about. I find that hilarious, Richard, that you had one of those. We're all musicians, even though like in our regular lives, we all might be, I'm an anxiety mess in my regular life. But when I get on stage, I can turn that switch on and I can be something different. But it's funny how we get like nervous around like when we want to try out with, Lee's band or play around with them or whatever.
Well, I have those guys on such a pedestal.
Exactly.
And here I'm trying out and with one of my best buddies on earth, Casey Bach, bass player, who I'm comfortable with anywhere. And, he's just like, all right, dude, mellow out. He's over in the corner smiling like, this guy don't play drums. Just such a horrible day. But anyway, Lee, you used to work at the Blaze.
I did.
We've been friends a long time, and I never knew that.
Yeah. It was, I started with them when they were over here just north of Highway 2 on 48. And I just, was in college and I was like, man, I really want to get into radio. I'm just dying for it. And so they gave me a shot, and EJ kind of took me under his wing, and he was, giving me my weekly beat down on what I needed to do different and got me better at that. But it was the days, when you had to like physically put in, discs, and all the commercials were on carts and all that stuff. And then the station moved, to where it is now. And things have changed. It just became more and more automated. And my shift typically was like the midnight to 6 Saturday night kind of a thing. And I got a few of the 6 to noons, on Sunday, that kind of thing. But it was a blast, but I could just see where things were going. And I just thought, man, it's a fun industry, but there's not a lot of security in it. And just wasn't the right move. So I stayed on, part-time here and there. I never was a full-time guy there, but I was there for quite a while, like 5 or 6 years. It was fun.
Well, we heard a lot of crazy stories from Sir EJ on the radio and different musicians and things they've seen or have witnessed being on stage or just traveling. Do you have a particular moment that you will never forget? No hold bar. Anytime, whatever it was, because I love hearing these stories.
Oh man, there's so many. I mean, one of the funniest was we were playing a wedding. Willis was, and it was it was downtown Lincoln, and I think it was the mother-in-law of the bride, some in the party, but a little bit removed, and I don't know really what she was trying to do, if it was a handstand or what, but totally lost it and fell into the mic and the mic stand put a big old gouge in my guitar, and she landed on the floor, all, as you can imagine, she was in a skirt, so everything was, but yeah, I mean, they're just, countless stories, but that's one that comes to mind. And the funny thing about that one is now every time I play that guitar, put a gouge in the neck, and every time I look down, I think of that story, and it just takes me back.
Yes, that is so funny because my sister went to a Flannel Channel show one time and I didn't get to go. Then doing like a St. Patty's Day thing or something, and she stepped on, I think it was Eric's guitar case, smashed it, and she goes, "Oh my God, I will get you a new one." He goes, "No, no, no. Now I will think of you falling on my guitar case every time I look at this." So it's not all bad. Well, you do so many things. I mean, you're on the radio, you are in all these cool bands. Also, do you do something up in the air? Do you?
Yeah, I kind of grew up around airplanes, and my dad was a pilot and eventually an airline pilot. He did air shows and all that, so I grew up, around stunt flying, I guess most people would call it. The Stewart Air Show and some of these around. He was a big part of that whole experience. With the not only flying aerobatics, but really do the motorcycle with the guy on the handlebars, and he'd climb up a rope ladder into the airplane and all that kind of stuff. So I really grew up around it, but I never really embraced it when I had all that opportunity, because again, I was focused on music. And then I got into skydiving. It's kind of what got me back into aviation, and did that for a few years, and just took a lot of time. Just you'd be out. I jumped at Weeping Water, and so I'd be out there, and all day for 2 or 3 jumps, and I've got just over 100 jumps now, and but it just came to, I just couldn't spend all weekend out there anymore. And so then I got into flying and got my private, got my instrument, and I'm working on my commercial rating now, and fly a little bit for work and fly a little bit for fun. But yeah, it's a fun little hobby.
All this, and you were a race car driver as well. Shout out to Michelle Bose for
Yeah, no kidding. I got a great story on that one too when we get down the road on the racing a little bit. But I grew up. My dad raced sprint cars also, and so I started racing go-karts when I was little, and then I was fat as a kid. Okay, so I got to the point where I was really too heavy to be competitive in the go-karts without racing in the adult class, and he didn't want me in the adult class because those guys were out for blood. And so that brought the end of my karting career. And then I didn't really race anything until I was going to move out to the Southwest for work. And my dad still had a sprint car sitting in there and in his garage there. And I thought, man, let's fire that thing up. And I just want to try it, and see what it's all about. And so we got it together, and I went and ran a few shows out at Eagle. And then I ended up not moving, just circumstance. The job was still intact, but the housing market was a mess, and we just couldn't get anything to get together out there. And so I thought, well, we're here, I might as well race. So yeah, raced sprint cars for 5 or 6 years, something like that. And that was a great time. But back to Michelle, the reason I quit racing was just not enough time to hang out with kids. I'd be out there Saturday night, and then Sunday I'm working on the car all day, and then the weekend shot, I'm not hanging out with kids, and that's not right. So, and then, with my other music schedule and work schedule and everything else, there just was no time. So something had to give, and that was probably the easiest to let go. But I just remember her out there, 7 months pregnant, helping me push the race car around in the dust and the dirt, 105 degrees out there. And she was just she was a trooper. She was a machine. She put up with it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Done everything, man. Like, you skydive, you do race cars, you fly. I mean, like, seriously, what else does Lee do? Like, what else do you do that we don't know about, Lee?
I do have my scuba diving license, but I only got a few of those under my belt. But man, the way I look at it, like, you only get one run through this life, and I want to do it all. I want to do everything I can do, and I may not be good at any of it, but I just want to give it a shot.
You're the secret Avenger.
Right.
You are. Yes, I think I've seen you at a meeting here and there.
Yeah.
Wearing like a black mask or something, or your Halloween costume, the tight one. Weren't you what was
That was a horrible idea. The Power Rangers. Yeah.
Yep. And Angie brought socks for everybody, and some of you didn't need them.
How many socks were you, Lee? Were you no socks, or were you up to 8 socks? That's what we wanted. That's a hard one.
No comment. No comment.
I don't think he put a sock in it. I know that Joe had like 8 of them in there just as a joke, but or wasn't. Great costumes, though.
Yeah. So somebody's brilliant idea was that we should go play the Halloween show at the Grove, and the costume. So we tried to, with Ghetto Blaster, we tried to pick a theme every year. And somebody had the great idea to be the Power Rangers. And so we got those skin tight, everybody had a different color, but skin tight Power Ranger suits. And it won't happen again.
So I know you as like a rocker. And how did Ghetto Blaster come about? I guess I've never asked you that over all these years.
Yeah. So I was hanging out with Joe and Stan and Nick Broshears, who was the original drummer. And we were karaokeing one night, and everybody was doing, the Summer Lovin' and all those kinds of, typical karaoke songs. And we ended up doing the Humpty Dance and all these other, hip hop jams. And the place was, going crazy for what we were doing. And thought, man, let's start a band playing that stuff. And at the time, everybody was in different bands and too busy. And so time passed. And then finally, man, it was many years after that, finally got the right guys together and said, hey, let's do this. And so that's how Ghetto Blaster came to be. And, the heavy lifting on that deal is obviously, Manuel is doing all the keys and crazy sounds that all that stuff demands. And then Joe and Stan being able to memorize, 1.3 billion lyrics. It's pretty amazing.
It's impressive.
But it's just fun, doing its 90s and 2000s hip hop and people hear that stuff and just go crazy for it. So
every show is packed. I mean,
yeah,
it's unbelievable.
You put a show on, like a show. Like you guys even dress like the part.
It seems silly to get up there wearing your, Van Halen shirt playing hip hop. So
John Packard's up there, that just blows my mind. He's in that hip hop band. It's just crazy to me. But man, it's oozing talent, that band.
I think Zach had to get on there one time at the Vega or something at Vega, and he didn't have an outfit. And so I think Joe or somebody gave him, maybe you, but they gave him a shirt that says like Notorious B.I.G. and like a funky hat, and he put it on it. And we're like, and he even was like, I feel like an idiot. I go, just do it. You guys. Oh, he had his inner hip hop come out.
Yeah, you got to own it.
Yeah.
Well, how hard is it to flip those songs for you guys? Like to turn them to, because it's not like going back and learning a lot of rock tunes where you can go back and check the chords and all that. I mean, you got to put in a little bit of work, don't you, to make it sound good?
Well, yeah, and that's, like I say, that's where the heavy lifting comes in on the keyboard side, because really that's where it's at, is the tones and the drum tones. My initial vision for that band was to have an analog kit, just to keep it more, and by analog I mean the real drums and real cymbals, versus the E kits where everything's all digital and pads and stuff. But it was evident early on that doing the analog thing was not gonna capture the essence, like you say, of the music. And so, so it's all about getting the right drum tones and the right key tones, really. And some of the samples, and we don't do any loops really. We do short samples here and there, but it's not a karaoke band, but it kind of sounds that way because Manny does such a good job on the keyboard tones and the bass tones as well, getting the growly bass on some of that stuff and making it work. So it's a lot of sound experiment.
Well, and it's really cool to watch your guys' videos when you go like online and you look at like social media and stuff. And he puts together some really cool stuff. I mean, it looks like a professional video.
Yeah.
And like you want to be there. There's times where I'll be watching it. I'm like crying a little bit. 'Cause I'm like, I can't. Then Angie FaceTimes me and I'm like, oh, what? It's pretty badass. And we were talking to Joe about that too. It takes a lot of work to do that, but man, he's a professional when it comes to all that stuff.
Yeah.
You guys, though, it's up to you guys to really perform and do those things. And it's so much fun to go. Like when you guys would throw those $100 bills out and all the drunk girls thought they could go buy beer with it. Like things like that.
Yeah.
That got banned, I heard, but I mean, come on now. But yeah, it's so much fun to watch you guys.
All right, this is the best time of the show in my eyes, except for the show itself. But we got to talk about the people, places, and things that keep things going for this show, all the great places to go to, and all the awesome things to do here in town. So let's go ahead and run the Elegant Sasquatch ad, and then we will do the local roundup, Then after that, of course, we'll get back to our awesome interview with our guest, Lee Bose. Welcome to the Late Late Show with your host, Squatch.
Welcome to the show, everybody. We have a controversial guest tonight. He claims to have the world's smelliest beard and doesn't plan to do anything about it in the foreseeable future. Let's bring him on right now. He wants to be brought on by what he goes by on his socials, Toxic Beard 87.
Hey, calm down. Don't hate the smells of it sells.
Hello, my toxic friend. Let me ask you something. With brands like the Elegant Sasquatch Beard Company, why do you choose to smell like a rotten egg on Easter?
It all started when I was 16 years old. My beard was growing like a forest full of pine trees, and it was time for me to find a delicious scent to make Cindy Jo fall in love with me. I found a beard oil in a store, and I thought for sure she was going to be mine. I caked it on, and I was so proud of the way I smelled and how I looked. As soon as I saw Cindy Jo, I went running over to her, but instead of her embracing me and taking me in, she told me to go away and told me I smelled terrible. It was the worst day of my life. It was right then that I vowed that I would never put another product in my beard again. And so here I am, Toxic Beard Guy 87, and I'm not going anywhere.
Well, if I'd gone through that, it'd been tough for me to show my face again, too. But luckily, there's companies like the Elegant Sasquatch Beard Company that have multiple products that'll have girls like Cindy Jo melting in the palm of your hand.
Sasquatch, do you really think that there's a product for me?
Yes, my friend. There are beard balms, beard oils, beard butters, and beard washes that will make your whiskers the talk of the town. You'll be smelling like a dozen roses, and you'll be looking the best you've ever looked.
I would give anything to get Cindy Jo to talk to me just once again. Where can I get this amazing product?
Head on over to elegantsasquatchco.etsy.com and find yourself getting lost in the amount of items that they have to offer, including beard boxes as well, with a full line of some of their favorite products.
There's only one thing left to do. I'm going to go over to Etsy right now, and I'm going to buy as much product as I can, and I'm going to find Cindy Jo, and I'm going to win her over. Thanks again, Squatch.
You heard it here, folks. We changed his mind. Next on the show, we'll have a doll with an eating disorder. Then we'll have squirrels riding skateboards. Till then, head on over to Etsy right now. Tell them that the Scratch the Vinyl podcast sent you.
All right, everybody. We've got the local roundup. We've got so much going on. I'm not even going to waste too much time getting into it here. Let's first start off at Gray's Keg. Friday night, they've got the All-Star City Blues Band. 8 p.m. Saturday night, they've got Pop Goes Metal. That's right, Pop Goes Metal returns to Gray's. I've heard a lot of great things about these guys, so go check them out at 8 p.m. Then the Zoo Bar has the Friday FAC with Church of the Blues. That's with Levi William and Josh Hoyer. I've heard so many great things about that band, so go check them out 5 p.m. Then later on, 8 p.m., Pretend Friend is going to be there. They're a touring progressive folk rock band out of Wichita. Go see them. Saturday at 5 p.m., they've got the Jericho Strays with Red Cities. 9 p.m., they've got Pert Near Sandstone with the Midnight Wanderers. They're a modern string band. They're also the hosts and curators of the Blue Ox Music Festival, so you know that's going to be awesome. Duffy's has we haven't really mentioned Duffy's too much on here, so let's give them a little shout out. Let's mention them. So Friday night at 9 p.m., they have Jesus Christ Taxi Driver and Bad Self Portraits with Jet Set and Titus Groaners. Let's see. Then they have Lost Weekend featuring Shred Flintstone, Pawns, Socials, Cinema, Heligoats, Horse Bitch, and more. So I wonder what the and more is. That's a Saturday at 4 p.m. show there. So there's a ton going on at Duffy's this weekend. Check out their page on Facebook, or I'm sure they have a website you can go to see that. Madsen's B&B also has an excellent rock and bowl going on this Saturday night with Rapid Fire. They've got all your hits from the 70s to the 90s, all that good stuff, and that's an 8 p.m. show this Saturday, so go see them. Now let's talk about some of our sponsors. Roots Music Shop. I was just there this week. I had them fix one of my guitars and down tune it so that I can play all those tasty little metal licks. And I just, like always, I had a great time, and I'm just so glad that they're one of our sponsors. Also, we have American Senior Benefits with Jason DeGosh. Get a hold of them. I know that they deal with all sorts of things when it comes to seniors, and get a hold of American Senior Benefits and ask for Jason DeGosh. Backtrack Records is a new one that we have. We have a new sponsor. Where is Backtrack Records, you ask? It is at 1549 North Cotner. It's next to Let's Talk Bowling right there. They've been open since, 1988? And this place is honestly awesome. I've been wanting to get a sponsor because, we're Scratch the Vinyl. I've been wanting to get a sponsor that deals with records and sells them, and we found one. I had a great time there, picked up some awesome vinyl, and you should too. We'll be talking a lot about those guys. So go to Backtrack Records. And now let's get back to our interview with our guest, Lee Bowes.
I know that you've got to meet and open up for people, or maybe someone open up for you, but either these guests or these even like famous people. Is there somebody that like really stood out, or like that you really enjoyed meeting or didn't enjoy meeting, or had a funny story about meeting them? Because it's kind of fun.
Sir Mix-a-Lot was a little different because he had a guy with him that set up a turntable and the whole thing. But Mix-a-Lot, I swear he had a Walkman that he plugged a cord into, and that was his band. There was nothing to it. He just,
when you're high, you got to really figure out how to do certain things simple.
I saw Kanye West once.
Yeah.
He came out with a boombox, pushed play, and that was it. That was the production of the show.
Yeah, right.
Boombox, I'm still scratching my head because I didn't get it, but wow. I've seen Kanye. We have what we call Richie's Rapid Fire. So
oh boy.
I have 10 questions prepared for you, and there's no middle ground here. Okay, it's a this or a that. Okay, you ready?
Okay, I guess I'm ready.
Stones or Beatles?
Beatles. It's a tough one.
Amplifiers, tube, no tube?
Oh, tube. All the way.
Right on. Van Halen, David Lee Roth, or Sammy? Polarizing.
For the party, it's Dave.
Oh, right on. Would you rather sing or play guitar?
Probably sing.
All right. Okay, so this is, I know a little bit about this one. Halloween or Christmas?
I'm going to surprise you with this. For me, it's Christmas, but for everybody else in my house, it's Halloween, which is where Halloween is the total goat rope.
Your house is like a legend for Halloween.
That's Michelle. I'm supporting her on that deal. But I love spooky stuff. I love Halloween, but Christmas and meaning behind it and all that's right on.
Acoustic or electric?
Ooh, man. Every time I would have said acoustic today, I say electric.
Okay. Boxers or briefs?
Boxers.
Jet plane or the little Cessna style?
I'll go with the little stuff because that's the only thing I can fly.
Grunge or hip hop?
Grunge.
Okay. And the last one, in the world of Batman, the Joker, are you a Nicholson guy or a Ledger guy?
I think Ledger.
Man, a lot of hitting them with the tough questions today, Richard.
Yeah.
Very polarizingly.
Surprised you on a few of those, I'm sure.
You did. Yeah. A few of those. I already know this answer.
The grunge hip hop thing, you're going to get me in trouble with that, but there's not a lot of guitar in hip hop. So,
right.
Yeah. Only if you go to I know when Coolio was too, he had a nice band behind him, and that was kind of a cool thing. It's unfortunate that Coolio's no longer with us, but for me, when you go see those hip hop guys and they bring a band with them, there's something so beautiful about that. And like watching you guys play, it's just, there's something about it. It's the musicianship of you guys taking that thing where they didn't have a bunch of guys in the studio playing all these things. They were doing samples and putting together beats. There's something beautiful about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting on the hip hop tip that you do the 90s and 2000s and you still have that band vibe. And then it's almost like the switch flipped. And from, 2010 on, there's like no guitar in any of that stuff. And we've talked about, pushing our line a little bit because we're pretty dialed in on 90s, 2000s. We talked about pushing that line a little further forward, but it really does turn into just that whole sample era and straight loop. So there's not as much fertile ground for the band vibe.
Well, how do you feel about music today? I like to ask a lot of, especially since you're doing a lot of things, you're also a recording artist and you've done a ton. Do you like the fact that kids can make anything in their basement or in their bedroom and put it out, or do you think that music needs to get more back to where it kind of used to be, the best of the best, the cream of the crop, get their stuff out there, and that's it?
What this era has done is it's really uncovered a lot of the talent that's out there, and today it's sad that what you said is the cream of the crop, the people getting the press, the 1 and 2 artists that each of these labels is pushing isn't nowhere near as talented as so many people in their basement. And you see it every day on social media and people posting stuff and trying to make it go. And I mean, the sad thing also is, we talked about CDs earlier, but there was a day when you didn't have to be on a label and you could go out and tour and you had merch to sell. If they liked the music, they had to buy the CD to hear it, or the tape, if you want to go way back. But now with everything free and streaming and everything else, it's really, really hard for these bands and artists to get out and make a living at it. So, I mean, I'm all for anything they can do to share their music and share their talent and their gifts with the world, because it's really, really hard to do it without it. I mean, really hard. You can't just go tour anymore. You got to either have some really deep pockets or be, supported by those labels. And
yeah, some of the
different era.
Some of the bigs have even canceled tours here recently just because it's so cost prohibitive. And it's bands like, the Black Keys, I think, had to cancel a tour and then reschedule it in smaller venues because just the way the world is, the music industry right now, I don't know how those guys are making any money anymore, but
yeah, well, it's licensing and syncing. I mean, that's where it's at. You get your music placed on TV shows, movies, video games. Right. That's where you can get the revenue to support you going out on tour. That's what the basement recording era has done is it's made possible that avenue for people to do that recording and get that stuff placed if they know how to navigate that game, which is also a complex one. But yeah, it's just a bummer for the folks coming up, and even the folks that are still active now that, hopping in a van and going and banging out a 2-week tour is just a really, really hard thing to do now. And it wasn't that hard, in the past.
Well, I mean, you're literally looking behind us at a basement where I do a lot of production and I produce smaller artists. And I only did it out of necessity because I could never afford to go into studio. I had young family, whatever it was, right? I was just always work. I never had the funds and never wanted to set my family, and not saying that someone who does is wrong, but set my family back a couple $1,000s because I wanted to make a gamble on this single or that single working. So I've always done it with I make the most out of the least is what I do. So I think this era is great. I know I just listened to Billy Corgan on a couple of different, I know Billy can be annoying to people, but I love him. But he was saying the music business in the next, 15 years is going to make another drastic change, and it's going to go back to being better for the bigger musicians like them. And so I wonder what that means in the scape of the basement producers like myself.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's going to come back to giving those artists a bigger cut of the streaming revenue. And that's great if you're Snoop or you're Billy Corgan or you're, somebody that gets 1 million streams, a year or a day or whatever, just super high spin rate. So those guys are getting a bigger cut will certainly help them. But a guy like me, we've got a couple singles out and, I think it's been listened to 3 times, probably all by me. So not a lot of revenue coming my way, but still it's something, and hopefully more, because like I say, it used to be you could go play a show and I mean, I remember the Common Ground days, we had the ratio kind of worked out. If we knew we had, 200 people there, we were going to sell, 30 CDs. If we kind of had that math worked out, and it kind of almost always worked out that way. And so you could then, kind of line up a tour and say, okay, we got these, 6 cities. And if we can get, 100 people there, we can sell this many CDs and make it play that way. But with the streaming deal like it is now, you can't bank on anything except vinyl or, t-shirts and stickers and things like that. It's just a harder, there's less margin in that stuff because you got to keep it affordable so people can buy it. So yeah, it's a tough time, but still people are doing it. There's a way to do it. Just really got to be smart and work it. Stay hungry.
Well, I mean, you mentioned vinyl. Do you have some vinyl out there right now? Like, when you go to different shows, do you sell vinyl?
Our plan is we've been recording what we're calling singles, but we'll release one song at a time. We're going to release probably 2 or 3 more singles, and then we've got another 5 or 6 tunes that we're going to also record and then put all of that together, and basically it'll be a re-release on vinyl. So we're working toward the vinyl, but in the meantime, at least we're keeping stuff out there and staying in people's faces with those releases. So yeah, Lee Both and Jupiter Rings will have a vinyl at some point, but we're not in any huge hurry. We're only playing half a dozen shows a year. We don't play a bunch just because of life schedule, and John's an AM/FM, and that's busy, and Rich keeps Casey busy, and we've all got lives outside of music to keep us busy. So we just try to walk that line and play as much as we can and appreciate every opportunity we get. So, but yeah, there will be vinyl. My wife pressed a few of the Willis record, which was only made in a CD. She pressed a few of those onto vinyl for us. So we've got a few of those floating around, and by a few, I mean like 6, maybe 7. So they were like one-offs kind of a thing, but still fun. It's just cool to put a needle on a record and scratch the vinyl and hear your music come out the other side.
Sounds like maybe I could get one of those to put with my collection, my Louis Vuitton collection.
We can probably work that out.
Right on. I just want to hear more stories about Richard and Lee, like some fun stuff you guys done together, or played, or just some
Oh, Lee's always been my go-to guitar player if we were ever a man short. And I mean, things just change when he's on stage with me, and like everything increases. He makes me better. We've gone to some shows together, just had good times, I don't know.
Has he ever taken you out on, or I don't know what you say, take you out on a plane?
He's offered a ton of times, but
Oh, that'd be so cool to do that. You
yeah,
guys could be like leaving Las Vegas, wherever, where they like have the Elvis costumes on. You could jump out, and that could be your next show entrance. Gaga. Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
If I ever do get up there in the sky with Lee, I'll document it. But I got this little 4-year-old at home, and she keeps me plenty busy, and it seems like there's always stuff. But he's offered many times, and I've just never done it yet. It's one of those things.
Your time will come. Everything happens for a reason, and the timing and all of that. And maybe we'll have a STV jump out the plane day. No, okay, no.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
We were supposed to go like 2 years ago, and somehow it got canceled. And now I'm thinking about it. It's like I have nightmares, and I'm like, what was I thinking? But I've heard it's awesome to jump out of a plane.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I jumped one time out of Crete, and I'm so skinny, I hit what they call a thermal, like an updraft. So here I'm parachuting to the ground, and all of a sudden I start going back up like a hot air balloon would.
Yeah.
And back in the day when I did this, it was in the 90s. They're like, you couldn't communicate with the ground, but the ground could communicate with you. It was a one-way radio, right? And they're like, jumper 2, you've hit a thermal. Don't be frightened. Just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, it's free time, baby.
I bet I hung there for 2 minutes in one spot. And I'm like, I don't know what to do, because I wasn't attached to anybody. It wasn't a tandem. It was a static jump, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then, man, when I finally hit the ground, it drug me across the field. The wind was blowing. I weighed 100 pounds then, so. But, man, it was fun. So fun.
Yeah, nothing like being dragged across the ground by a parachute. That's
You got it.
Does
One
that
time.
happen a lot? Does that do you get dragged a lot, like all over the place?
Ask Lee. He's got 100 under his belt.
Well, what happens is the parachutes vary by forward speed, right? So when you're coming down, but you're also moving forward. Yeah. And if your forward speed is 15 miles an hour, anything less than 15 miles an hour, you're going to be landing forward. If it gets it's 20 miles an hour, now you're backing up 5 miles an hour. There's nothing you can do because you can only go straight into the wind. That's as fast as you can go forward. And let's say it's 10 and you're coming down at 15. Well, as soon as you touch and flare, you slow down, right? Your parachute slows down to flare for your landing. And then as soon as you hit the ground, now that 10 miles an hour wind is pulling that parachute back. So as soon as you hit, you pull one riser down and it makes the thing turn and basically fly into the ground. But if it's strong enough, or if the winds change, while you're up, which is what happened to me in my case up at Council Bluffs. Yeah. We got out and I think the winds was 20 and it was 25, I think, when I landed. And yeah, so as soon as I hit, I was backing up. Actually, I was backing up before I hit the ground. And then as soon as I hit the ground, I turned to dump it and it was already dragging me. So it's not common. It's not ideal, but it happens. Today, a lot of guys are jumping, really small parachutes that have a way faster forward speed. So it's less common now, but it can happen.
And you're not strapping to somebody else, like they do. You're doing this yourself or what?
Yeah. I did a tandem jump early on just to try it, see what it was all about. But yeah, then when you go to do it, you'll do usually 5 static line jumps to get cleared to go solo, and then you're on your own. It's up to you to save your life.
Wow. No, thank you. Brooke, if you want to be the spokesperson for STV and do it, by all means, we'll watch you from below. I would fall like a boulder immediately. It would be the shortest jump in history.
I can't even walk up the stairs without falling. So, and if it's windy out, somehow I trip on, I don't know, air. That would be a horrible idea for me. I can't even sing and play the guitar. See, that's the thing. I can't even do either one of them singly, and let alone, like when they were asking sing or play the guitar. Well, I'm like, I can't even do either one of them. And then, yeah, jumping out of a plane probably wouldn't be good. But I would love to be on the ground and wait for you guys to come down.
Yeah. Yes.
That's insane. You've done it all. What is something that you want to do that you in the future that that you have this goal that you're going to do it?
Well, the short-term goal is to get my commercial rating for my pilot's license, but that's not all that exciting. I've always wanted to try hang gliding. I guess that's what's left out there. I guess I've done, like I said, been pretty fortunate. Just been able to do a lot of the things I've wanted to do.
So you just have left just to save the world.
Right. Well, we'll talk about the next X-Men's meeting.
Okay. Yes. All right. I'm taking notes right now.
Yeah.
Well, this time has flown by like all of them do, Lee. We definitely want to thank you for being on the show with us. I've really enjoyed my time with you, and we hope to have you back again sometime soon. But yeah, thanks again for being on the show.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. You guys are awesome, and thanks for doing this show to support Lincoln music and all the folks that are out here struggling every day to keep it alive. I appreciate your efforts in the show. So thanks again for having me.
We really appreciate you a lot, and it's so much fun to watch you. And also give a little shout out and a little hug to Michelle.
We'll do it.
Wonderful, beautiful woman.
Yeah,
You're very lucky, Lee.
I am.
And those cute damn kids. Love them.
Lee, thanks, brother. I've wanted to interview you for a long time, so we appreciate you.
Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, this has been a blast. Thank you, Richard, for putting this together and being on the show once again. Richard is the new Billy Preston of the group. He's the unofficial member of the band. And I'm so glad that we have him here to do so. Thank you again, Lee, and for all you millions and millions listening out there, at least we can hope. Tune in next week for another amazing episode of
Scratch the Vinyl.